All right, good evening, everyone. Today is Tuesday, January 7th, 2025, and we are calling this regular meeting of the Wake County Board of Education to order at 5:36. I want to welcome those of you that are watching at home, and I want to welcome all of you who've joined us in person. Happy 2025 and Happy New Year to you all. The Wake County Board of Education meetings are for the purpose of conducting the official business of the Board of Education. The public is cordially invited to attend the meetings to observe the board as it conducts its business. Persons who willfully interrupt, disrupt, or cause disturbances during a meeting may be directed to leave by the presiding officer, and disruptions by any person or persons of a public meeting will be subject to action in accordance with General Statute 143-318-17. So we do have a quorum today. Quorum is the majority. However, we only have 8 members here. As you know, we have a vacant seat for District 2, but we'll be discussing that later in the meeting. So with a full quorum, I'd like to invite all of you that are able to please stand as we recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. So turning to our official meeting agenda, the first item on the agenda is consideration and adoption, hopefully, of the agenda. I'll entertain a motion at this time.
So moved.
We have a motion from Mr. Swanson to adopt tonight's meeting agenda, and we have a second from Ms. Mahaffey. All in favor of approval of the meeting agenda, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, the meeting agenda has been approved. So the first item on our agenda, sorry if I'm grinning a little bit, is a special recognition item tonight about the naming of the courtyard at Hortons Creek Elementary School. So if we could, I would like to call upon, is it our chief of schools? Is it our area superintendent? Cedric, I'm looking at you, sir. All right. I'm calling up the Northwest Area Superintendent, Mr. Cedric Williams, for this special information item tonight.
Thank you, Board Chair, Board members, Superintendent Taylor. It is my honor, my privilege to come to you today. We have in attendance our retiree, Dr. Sandy Chambers, who retired recently from Hortons Creek Elementary School. Before coming to Hortons Creek, she was also at Broad Creek Elementary School as principal there as well. She served us well here in the Wake County Public School System. The PTA there at Hortons Creek Elementary School approached the assistant principal there and said, we would like to honor our founding principal here at Hortons Creek by naming our garden in her name, Dr. Chambers. And they said, what do we do to make that happen? And then we said, well, there is a process. They did go ahead and get many names from community members there who wanted to see this happen as well. So today I'm here asking you if you would go ahead and consider making sure that they can put this plaque in that courtyard in honor of the Dr. Sandy Chambers. So that is my question to you, Board, if you would consider that this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. So we do have, the next item on the agenda is the action item concerning this request. If everyone is satisfied with the information item, or I don't know if you have any additional speakers or anyone else presenting tonight, we can either move to the action item or we can hear from anybody who's assembled.
Well, she said, I don't have to speak tonight, do I? And I said, you do not if you do not want to, but if she would like to come and just say a few words, I would definitely welcome that if you would, Board Chair.
Thank you. I will leave it up to your discretion.
Since I put her on the spot, she's coming, I'm sure.
You better buy some flowers for that garden now.
Indeed.
Well, it is an honor to be considered for this honor.
the PTA and the community at Hortons Creek and the staff and students and the whole community there believed in me when I opened that school, and they trusted me and valued me for the ideals and the vision that we all came up with together. And it was just, PTA's here, Miss Morton's here from the school, Miss Small here, she was the founding assistant principal of the school, my family's here, and it would be such an honor for you to consider naming the courtyard after me. We had such a good time there, but I have retired in June, and I don't know if I'm coming back to work or not, but anyway, I would love for you to consider it.
Chair Haggerty, I
Thank
would
you, Principal
love
Chambers.
to make a motion to approve this courtyard naming after the amazing, incredible, and every positive adjective I can think of, Dr. Sandy Chambers.
So we do have a
Chair?
motion.
Sorry. I would like to second, because, fun fact, Dr. Chambers and I went to junior high together in
No
Durham
way.
Public Schools. Yes way, yes. And unfortunately, we haven't worked together much because, she's not been one of the principals or administrators in District 5, but that doesn't matter. I'm eagerly ready to second that motion and excited for you and so proud of you. And yes, please come back.
All right, then, if that's acceptable, all right, then we do have a motion from Ms. Mahaffey and a second from Ms. Edmonds. So the motion is on the table for discussion. Ms. Mahaffey.
I'm obviously going to vote for this because anyone who has met Sandy Chambers knows her dedication to the profession of educating students. It was my first vote on the board, was approving the assignment plan for Hortons Creek Elementary School, and I got to see how she and Ms. Smalls helped build that school, create that school to a very, it's just an incredible place. And I'm at a loss for words because if you watch her work, you are at a loss for words. And I think the fact that so many of her staff members and mentees are here is just a testament to the impact that she's had on this district in so many different ways. And I know one of the first things that she talks about is her family and her very public wedding on the Today Show, or Good Morning America, I'm sorry, and her children. And I know that that is a huge sacrifice to be the family of a principal. And so I just want to thank you guys for supporting your partner, your mom, throughout this, because I know she puts her whole heart into that, and at the same time, she has space to put her whole heart into all of you. I don't know how you do it, but I know you have boundless energy, and so I am just so excited for this.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mahaffey. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? And it is an incredible honor for us to take the action to name this garden in honor of Horton Creek's founding principal. The lines for our districts change over time. And, I know that Hortons Creek was originally one of Ms. Mahaffey's schools. With the lines changing, it became a District 7 school. But I could not add anything to what Ms. Mahaffey has said other than just your legacy at the school is amazing. Parents still talk about Ms. Chambers. They have high hopes for the future, right? And everything's positive. You left the ship in good condition. But everyone loves you and misses you so much. And so I'm happy to vote for this, and I believe everyone else on the board is as well. So thank you. All right, we'll take the vote. All in favor of the naming of the courtyard at Hortons Creek Elementary after is it former principal Sandy Chambers? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Williams, you do know the address for those flowers and bulbs.
I will make sure I get 2 dozen, sir. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I hope you all just appreciate, we have wonderful stories here in the districts, and it's great when we can be joined by family and friends and staff just to celebrate some of the wonderful people that we do have working for us. So we thank you all for coming out tonight. We will move now to the public comment portion of our meeting. Public comment, speakers, if you are new, pay attention. If you've been here before, you probably have heard all this, but please bear with me. We're going to hear tonight first from speakers who are students in our public schools. Then we will hear from speakers commenting on items on the night's agenda. They'll be heard before speakers on other topics. All other speakers will be heard in order of their sign-up. Only the person speaking at the podium will be allowed to stand. All other attendees that are not speaking are to remain seated. Concerns related to personnel matters or personnel issues or student matters may be addressed through several other policies that are available to you. And if you are here seeking a resolution of a situation about that, please stay after and meet with staff while you're here. We can put you in touch with the correct staff person to address that matter. In the interest of maintaining civility and decorum, speakers are encouraged to address their comments to the Board of Education, those of us up here at the table, and must refrain from personal attacks and insults directed at the board, individual board members, staff, and most importantly, members of the public. It takes a lot of bravery to get up here before everyone and speak, so please be respectful. If you have materials that you would like to share, please give those to our board attorney, Mr. Malone, sitting at the end of the table. Before or after you speak, while you are speaking, you should remain at the podium. During public comment, you may speak for up to 3 minutes. The microphones are adjustable. And the way it works, if you haven't done this before, your time begins once you begin speaking. Once you begin speaking, the green light will begin, and that's the start of your time. Now, as you go, you have 3 minutes. When you see a yellow light and you hear an audible tone, that's your warning that you have 30 seconds left. Sometimes, if you have your notes over the light, it may surprise you. Don't be rattled. That's just telling you you've got 30 seconds left. When you hear the next tone and see a red light, that is the signal that your time is up. That's when we will call another speaker up to the table. So please, when your time is up, please step away and allow the next speaker to come up and speak. And again, speakers are asked to respect the time limit and speak for no more than 3 minutes to allow everyone the opportunity to speak and to not disrupt the meeting. All right, so for tonight's public comment period, we have several students joining us. I'm going to start with Ariana Armstrong, who will be followed by Brandon Estevez. Good evening, Ariana.
Good evening. My name is Ariana Armstrong, and I'm a senior at Knightdale High School, and a member of the Post Center's Youth Empowerment Team and Teen Health Advisory Council. Before I begin, I'd like to thank the members of the Wake County Board of Education and Wake County Public School System for giving me the opportunity to voice my opinions in front of them. Tonight, I'm here to advocate for the adoption of passive permission or opt-out policy when administrating the Youth Risk Behavior Survey, YRBS. I know that in previous meetings you have been, and tonight you will be informed of the statistical advantages of implementing this policy. However, I'd like to take the time to provide you with the perspective of someone who has been negatively impacted by the implementation of the opt-in policy and has seen the shift in conversation surrounding surveys like the YRBS as a result. In the past, my school has given students the opportunity to fill out a survey just like the YRBS, where we are questioned on things like our mental health, substance use, and the intercourse we engage in, and are asked to anonymously respond. One day, I noticed that the seat of one of my friends was vacant. And when a few presumed sick days turned into weeks of absences, inquiries on her whereabouts took place. She later told us that she had attempted to take her own life and was at home recovering. The story of my classmate is just one of many within Wake County. There are thousands of children whose voices are not being heard and problems are not being considered in the results of surveys like the YRBS because they are part of a disproportionately underrepresented community. Wake County is the largest county in North Carolina, but has the lowest overall YRBS response rate. The YRBS is meant to gauge the needs of youth today and help form strategies in the community and improve school programs. But if we don't know there's a problem, how can we address it? If more accurate data had been collected from surveys like the YRBS, the data can show schools and support systems that students need more resources and support. And my friend may have received the support she needed sooner. I hope that when you take your vote and think of this survey, you will remember my words and think of all the students, like my classmates and I, you will be helping by making this small change. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Brandon Estevez, will be followed by Phoenix Bilodeau.
All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Brandon Estevez, and I'm a junior at Broaden High School. Now I'm here to talk about something that people love seeing in their inboxes, surveys. So over the past few years, I've noticed that my peers do generally care about tackling mental health issues, like anxiety, depression, and self-confidence. But here's the catch. We don't have the data to fully understand these challenges. Like fixing a car without knowing what's under the hood, we need the Youth Risk Behavior Survey data in order to identify patterns and move forward. Since the pandemic, things have only gotten worse for my age demographic, with my peers' mental health taking a hit. That's why I'm here advocating for the adoption of the Youth Risk Behavior Policy. First, it would offer an accurate snapshot of student well-being. Wake County is unique, and statewide data just doesn't cut it. Without our own data, it's just like trying to solve a jigsaw puzzle without half the pieces missing. Second, this data helps organizations that are addressing issues just like this. The Post Center for Health Education is an excellent example of a group that, with the proper data and its resources, can effectively help address these issues. Third, let's talk about grants. Imagine competing against Charlotte-Mecklenburg for funding without local data. It's like showing up to a job interview without a resume. Wake County is already at a disadvantage. And in today's landscape, every bit of funding counts. Here is the reality. Wake County is the only oversampled district in North Carolina using an opt-in policy. Other districts like Charlotte, Durham, and Forsyth use a parent-informed passive consent model, and they've all received weighted data. Meanwhile, Wake is left with nothing. It's like my buddy who showed up to Friendsgiving without a dish. It was awkward, disappointing, and a waste of time and resources. When I walk the halls of Broaden, I see firsthand how mental health struggles affect my peers, not just personally, but academically. Healthy students perform better, and the YRBS data is no exception to that, and can help schools craft meaningful solutions to address and improve academic outcomes. For parents, this data opens the door to important conversations about how their child or children are feeling. And for schools, it provides a roadmap to fulfill the strategic plan and equity frameworks you have already set out to complete towards, or work towards. At the end of the day, this isn't just about surveys or statistics. It's about giving students a voice and empowering us to advocate for ourselves and building a healthier and more supportive school community. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker, hold on one second, is Phoenix Bilodeau, who will be followed by Rayanna Graham.
Good evening, board members, and Happy New Year. I know I've discussed this before, but I want to talk to you guys a bit more about phones. I know that there are problems, but everything has its flaws. Drugs cause problems, but the drug problem within our schools continues. Guns cause problems, and that still continues. But good things can cause problems too. Our busing system is flawed, our lunch programs are flawed, our school computers and iPads are flawed, but we're not going to ban buses and lunch lines and technology. Instead, we look for a solution to the specific problem. There's no question that phones cause problems, but the root of those problems is deeper, and removing phones would only result in a new outlet for those issues. Phones can disrupt class and cause distractions. Why? Because students don't care, or most often, students don't understand and don't get adequate help. If they didn't have a phone, they'd find something else. I'm pretty sure we all remember the fidget spinner craze. Students use phones to harass classmates. Why? Because we as a society have failed to teach children that bullying is wrong, and bullying came long before phones. With no phones, students would still find a way to bully and harass their peers. Phones create drama. Why? Because people see something and are compelled to say something. If there was an intruder in the school, people would find a way to gossip and embellish it even without a phone. But what about the good that comes from phones? Students can can and do use phones for academic reasons. I have apps on my phone that help me understand math and science because I know I struggle in those areas. Students can and do use phones to prevent bullying or to get help for it. We use the Say Something app to report any concerns within our schools. Students can use phones to contact loved ones if necessary. I'd never want to create drama, but if my life happened to be in danger, I would absolutely tell my mom, my sister, and my girlfriend that I loved them. Every rose has its thorn, but sometimes things are worth a little prick in the finger. Phones do much good for everyone, not just students, and the cons of phones greatly outweigh the cons of being phoneless. And if phones were banned, wouldn't that apply to the teachers and staff too? School staff leads by example. They followed the dress code, they don't vape, they treat everyone with kindness, and doing all of that sets an example for students. It wouldn't be fair to take student phones while staff can still brandish theirs about. I already feel hugely unsafe at school on a regular day, and my phone is something that provides me with safety. It's a tool for survival. I don't know if I could even handle a regular day without my phone, not to mention a day with additional danger. And I know I'm not alone in that. There are options and numerous solutions for the phone-related issues, and those options don't have to be the removal or banning of phones, because I assure you that will just cause more harm.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Rayana, who will be followed by Kevin. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Rayana Graham, and I'm currently a senior at Wake Young Women's Leadership Academy. And I have had the privilege of serving as a member of the Post Center's Wake County Youth Empowerment Team for over 2 years. I would like to begin by extending my gratitude to the Wake County Board of Education and the Wake County Public School System for their ongoing commitment to student success. I stand before you today to advocate for change to the current policy regarding the Youth Risk Behavior Survey, or YRBS. Specifically, I am urging the board to adopt a passive permission or opt-out policy for administrating the survey. Under the current active permission or opt-in policy, the process for collecting data is faced with a number of challenges. Students are asked to bring home permission forms for their parents to sign and return. However, this process often fails for various reasons. Students may forget, the forms may be misplaced, or they may feel uncomfortable asking their parents to complete them. As a result, many students are excluded from participating in the survey, leading to a significant loss of data. This data is not just a collection of numbers. It is a vital tool that helps guide policy decisions and health initiatives that directly impact our community. At the Post Center, I have personally used the data collected in the YRBS to make policy proposals and ways to advocate for issues in my community. All of these things depend on data collected, and when the data is limited or includes so few, policies and programs fail to target or reach students who need help. When we take a look at the data produced from the North Carolina 2023 Youth Risk Behavior Survey, we can see that students' feelings of depression have had a downward trend for the first time in a decade. In 2021, feelings of depression reached a high of 41% and then decreased to 39% in 2024. This is data that is key to the adoption of mental health policies in North Carolina and has proved beneficial in the past with the adoption of SHLT 003, or school-based mental health policy. This is data we need to see from Wake County and why we need to adopt passive permission. In conclusion, I urge the Wake County Board of Education to consider the benefits of an opt-out policy for the Youth Risk Behavior Survey. This change will lead to more accurate and representative data, allowing for better informed decisions that benefit the health and well-being of students in Wake County. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Ms. Graham. Our next speaker will be Kevin Agyemong, who will be followed by Anish Patkar.
Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to speak before you today. My name is Kevin Agyemong, and I'm currently a sophomore at Millbrook Magnet High School. I am here today to advocate for the Wake County School Board to adopt a passive parent consent policy for the Youth Risk Behavior Surveillance Survey, also known as YRBS. The YRBS is an every other year nationally conducted survey administered to middle and high school students. It provides a crucial platform for students to anonymously share their experiences and offer insights into their overall well-being. By participating, students are able to provide a clear understanding on how they are faring, highlighting any needs and challenges. Like every other state, this information is vital to North Carolina as it helps identify areas of students' lives that need attention, while also evaluating the effectiveness of existing programs and initiatives in schools and other institutions. For the last several administrations, Wake County has been an oversampled district but had too little participation under the 60% for weighted data due to opt-in permission, also known as active permission policy. Because Wake County District has not been able to obtain the standard requirement for participation, the CDC does not provide the county with weighted data, unlike surrounding areas like Charlotte, Mecklenburg, Durham, Winston-Salem, Forsyth, and Chatham. The data withheld from our district is important for several key reasons. It offers an accurate snapshot of student well-being in Wake County, highlights area for program development for institutions like the Post Center, informs incomes of grant applications, as those who do meet the 60% are more capable of competing for grants, and also serves many other purposes. A major problem that withholds all of this data is active permission policy, which requires students to obtain consent forms, have their parents decide whether to opt into the survey, and then return the forms to their teachers. This process has many faults that can lead to the form not ever being accounted for, causing this lack of participation. As a result, the data collected may be biased, and students in our county are deprived from the opportunity to share their perspectives. In my life alone, I personally witnessed kids who struggle with substance abuse and vaping and mental health issues and valuing themselves and realizing their self-worth in and outside of school, all topics addressed in the YRBS. The solution proposed today lies in moving away from active permission to parent-informed passive permission. Under the passive consent, information is provided to parents and guardians, and consent is assumed unless they explicitly choose to opt out. This approach would significantly increase participation while keeping parents informed and empowering them to make the decision to withdraw their children if they wish. While I'm here today advocating for students to take the survey and share their perspectives on their well-being, I recognize that I cannot fully represent the experiences of over 100,000 students in the way the Youth Risk Behavior Survey can. The survey offers invaluable insight into diverse challenges and concerns faced by students. By encouraging participation, we can assure that these voices are heard. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker, Anish Patkar, and then we will turn to our non-student agenda. Good evening, Anish.
Good evening. So, my name is Anish, and I am also a senior in high school, but as someone who has attended a public school, who currently attends a private school now, I feel like I wanted to offer a perspective that from both a private and public school perspective about a youth behavior opt-out survey. As everyone else here, I'm also in support of the opt-out youth risk behavior survey. As we have seen before, mental health issues are at an all-time high since the 21st century. Sexual issues plague many of my friends who are in public schools, drugs that people take due to withdrawal, and so many more issues which aren't able to be seen and heard by the broader school system in Wake County. Many of my friends and peers who attend these public schools lament the lack of help and counseling they can receive for these issues. But to be fair, how could these people know? My private school, Durham Academy, is one that has just added or adopted an opt-out survey in the past few years. And I wanted to give some insight to how this has given our school a lot of opportunities to use this data. With the data used from these surveys and other private schools in our area, our school has identified nicotine as a large issue, depression linked to schoolwork and relationships, and alcoholism that results from peer pressure. With this data, our school has been able to take action, has spent singular days tackling each of these problems. And the next year, our school did better on each one of these single metrics. So clearly, being able to simply hear these problems from a community that historically hasn't seen them can show tangible results in my school, when I feel like the case of the use of an opt-out policy to give more voice to the kids in Wake County would see the same problem being relieved in Wake County as well. I've already seen the work of the Youth Risk Survey in helping identify problems at the Post Center, which has presented to the North Carolina Department of Instruction, and the data was immensely valuable in revealing trends about sexual and mental health. I know Wake County would benefit highly from getting an additional voice, and it would be immensely helpful in bringing the problems facing my community to an end. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes our student speakers' agenda for tonight, and so next we'll move to our on-agenda speakers. We have 3 speakers right now speaking to issues on tonight's agenda, or allegedly so. Our first speaker is John Balog, who will be followed by Michaela Hanig. Good evening.
Good evening. How are you?
Doing well. Happy New Year.
And all that good stuff. Good evening, Board. Thank you for your time. Looking at the budget numbers, you have a minimum $2.5 million deficit. This does not include new schools, maintenance, compensation, or benefits. One suggestion is to voluntarily request an audit. When is the last time DPI and/or each county was audited? I believe Dave Boliak would do well to start an audit once in office. On your website, you mention a watershed moment. Graduation rate rose 1.4%. Where are the numbers, the total number of students and graduates for each year? Since we are paying 50% of our taxes into your budget, we expect some fantastic results with students who are well educated and can perform at or above grade level. Congrats on your 91.4% graduation rate, but without the numbers, there could be lower numbers of grads or students or hundreds or thousands not graduating. So it would be helpful if we had more information on that. When they do graduate, students need to be ready for society, college, trade school, or the arts. Meta, Microsoft, DoorDash, CNN, Walmart, Zoom, Toyota, Caterpillar, Ford, Nissan, Molson Coors, John Deere, Lowe's, McDonald's, Tractor Supply Company, Harley-Davidson, Polaris, Indian Motorcycle, American Airlines, UNC Chapel Hill, University of Florida, MIT, Idaho Board of Education have all closed their DEI programs. They all need to, this is a quote from the businesses, focus on their business, which is what we need to do here. One by one, we will bring sanity back to corporate America. They don't give a squat if their new employees are purple or green or think they are an eggplant. They are all switching to a merit-based system. Imagine that. It's time to focus on education in Wake County. In addition, you might find some missing dollars for your budget. Merit-based, not numbers-based. I walked over 30 miles in school districts 3, 5, 6, and 8. I went door to door and to people on the street. 9 out of 10 did not know about the poor grades, the budget issues, $2.2 billion budget in just Wake County, Title IX passage, which allows boys and girls bathrooms or lockers, pornographic books in the libraries. In fact, I was shouted at as being a liar, even when I showed the information, most of which was from the Wake County Public School System website. Yes, the parents have spoken. The election is over, but the parents were not informed. We will take this time to prepare for the next election in 2 years. District 5 and 6 won by 21,000. Oh, thank you very much.
Our next speaker is Michaela Honig, who will be followed by Thomas Ray. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you all for giving me the opportunity to speak to you again. My name is Michaela Honig, and I'm the Tobacco Prevention Control Coordinator for Wake County and a member of the School Health Advisory Council. I'd like to reiterate the importance of the opt-in versus opt-out consent for the Youth Tobacco Survey, YTS, as well as the YRBS, or Youth Risk Behavior Survey. The current opt-out approach for these surveys ensures lower participation rates, thereby making it difficult to determine to the extent which tobacco products, such as vapes and nicotine pouches, are being used by our students, putting all of our youth at risk. Collecting localized data will allow us to make the best decision for our students' specific needs, rather than relying on statewide data that does not accurately reflect our county. These surveys provide critical insights into the behaviors, attitudes, and trends surrounding tobacco use among students in both Wake County and the state. Our county's meaningful contribution of anonymous data will be able to help local and state departments and elected officials better support their communities. Additionally, having more data will allow us to better understand how the money from the proposed plans for the Juul settlement will help us create a healthier student body. As a reminder, parents are still able to opt out their children from taking the survey, and there are no repercussions for doing so. There will be clear communication to families about the nature of the surveys, what it aims to accomplish, and how to opt out their child. Participation or non-participation will not affect the student's education. An opt-out policy for the YTS and YRBS would increase participation, provide more accurate data, and enhance our ability to make informed decisions on how to best protect the health and well-being of our students. This is about giving every student a voice and ensuring that our prevention efforts are as effective as possible. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, our final speaker for on-agenda items tonight will be Thomas Ray.
So full disclosure, I thought that I would be after the meeting, so I'm going to still read it the way it is. So good evening, Chair Haggerty, Superintendent Taylor, and school board members. My name is Thomas Ray. As a former Wake County Public School high school mathematics teacher, in person at Fuquay for 8 years and then online with SCORE for a few after that, as the Associate Executive Director of the Post Center for Health Education, as a Wake County 4-H Youth Development, STEM, specialist using geographic information systems to empower youth with data and technology to address community issues, as a member of the Community Equity Leadership Team, as a father of 4 adult children and grandfather of 3, I want to, in advance, express my sincere gratitude for this bold move to update the permission policy for the Youth Risk Behavior Surveillance and the Youth Tobacco Survey. I will not repeat the statistics that you have already been so eloquently presented by the youth voices that you've heard in November, again in December, and then already this evening. I will not reiterate the excellent use cases for local data that have been shared over the last several months, including from the Wake County SHAC, School Health Advisory Council, earlier in the year or last year. I just want to say thank you. Thank you for your desire to hear the voices of young people, the voices of the young people of Wake County as they face unique challenges and provide unique perspectives. Your vote tonight ensures that you, as school board members and the staff and leadership of Wake County Public Schools, will be informed to make data-driven decisions about the programs and priorities that affect our youth. You will have the information you need over time to demonstrate accountability for the funding that you're responsible to steward. From tax dollars to Juul settlements, you will be able to track the impact of efforts and make adjustments as needed based on weighted local data. Our county commissioners will have the data they need as they seek to make Wake County passionate, proactive, and purposeful, especially in the areas of lifelong learning, inclusive prosperity, safer community, community health and well-being, the Post Center for Health Education, Wake 4-H Youth Development, and other youth-serving organizations that are focused on building the community infrastructure to support the resilience and well-being of our youth will have a realistic snapshot of how our Wake County young youth are faring, and where to invest our best thinking and efforts to optimize outcomes with our limited resources. Further, organizations like the Post Center, others along with you, Wake County government, and many other nonprofits will have the local level data they need to compete for the resources that will benefit our students and families and communities. I know you know all of this, but I want to clearly state for our community and for Wake County community the benefits and importance of this policy change. And I'm once again grateful and optimistic for your vote tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. So that concludes our on-agenda speakers. We only have a couple off-agenda speakers, and with the board's discretion, we'll push on. All right, thank you. So the first speaker off agenda we have is Joseph Deaton, who will be followed by Margaret Bilodeau.
While celebrating the record high graduation rate of 91%, Dr. Taylor rightly noted that we still have a long way to go, especially for students of color and low-income families. Dr. Taylor reported that 64% of Wake County students achieved an overall score of grade level proficient, GLP, or better on state standard tests. But that means that 36% were not proficient. This begs the question how we can go from 36% not being proficient on average through all grades to all of a sudden 91% graduating unless you're just passing people along or allowing for do-overs or simple makeup exercises. Furthermore, 71% scored GLP for high school English 2, but only 50% scored higher as college or career ready, CCR. For math level 3, 68% were GLP, while only 46% scored CCR. The scores for math level 1 were dramatically worse, so I infer that a large number of poorly performing students do not proceed on to level 3. But my main question is, why are students considered proficient and why are they graduating if they are not either college or career ready? Graduation rate is the wrong metric to set goals on. I've seen this problem before when I worked in R&D at one of the Dow 30 industrials. Management would set various goals, and then low and mid-level managers would pad their numbers in ways that were really not addressing the underlying problems. A more meaningful goal here would be to get 91% to score college or career ready on state standard tests, as long as NCDPI doesn't water them down. Don't complain about teaching to the test, because we have to have an objective measure of what students have learned and where we need to improve. The formula to improve math proficiency is simple. You have to work more exercises. There's no other way. You don't need to spend $5 million on new math software. Thank you and good evening.
Thank you. Our next speaker for our off-agenda speakers tonight is Margaret Bilodeau, who will be followed by Becky Lou Hobbs. Is Becky here tonight? If Becky is not here, then following Margaret will go to Christopher English. All right, welcome, Margaret.
Hello. Thank you for the opportunity to speak again tonight. My comments tonight are related to upcoming conversations regarding updating the district cell phone policy. While I understand the desire to minimize distractions and create a better learning environment, I believe an outright ban could have serious unintended consequences, particularly when it comes to student safety and accountability. School security cameras, while valuable, are not a complete solution. Students know how to avoid them, and cameras don't record audio. That missing context can be crucial in understanding incidents. Cell phones, on the other hand, have captured pivotal moments that cameras missed. For example, the cell phone footage of George Floyd's murder in 2020 showed the world an undeniable truth, leading to accountability and a global conversation about racial injustice. In 2015, a student named Ahmed Mohammed was wrongfully arrested for bringing a homemade clock to school, which was highlighted by documentation of students after the fact and exposed deep-seated biases. While we've also seen incidents like something that happened in South Carolina, where a resource officer violently threw a student in 2015, or students capturing racially motivated bullying in California in 2021. These videos weren't just documentation, they were proof that sparked change. Without cell phones, these injustices might have gone unnoticed. A blanket ban would take away an important tool for accountability, leaving students more vulnerable. Additionally, this policy risks creating a gray area for necessary electronics. Many students rely on electronic devices for 504 and IEP accommodations, as well as augmented communication tools to fully participate in their education. A cell phone ban could inadvertently harm some of our most vulnerable students. Instead of a blanket ban, I urge the board to consider an approach that empowers teachers, let them guide and manage cell phone use in their classrooms based on their unique dynamic and needs. Teachers are already balancing many responsibilities. They know best when and how to set boundaries for their students. In closing, I'd just like to ask the board to prioritize safety, equity, and fairness. Cell phones, when used responsibly, are not just distractions. They're tools for empowerment, accountability, and inclusion. Thank you.
Thank you. Last call for Becky Lou Hobbs. If not, we'll turn to Christopher English, followed by Johnson Olive. Good evening.
All right, so I gotta just first say the thing with the survey that they were all talking about, I'm behind that, and I'm also behind the cell phone thing that was also mentioned. So you guys should listen to them. But getting to the issue that brought me here today is, again, the 2025-2026 enrollment plan, as it has significant negative ramifications for my community in Apex. Last time when I was standing here, I really tried to argue against the approval of the 2026 or 2025-26 enrollment plan because I saw a few issues with the data being presented. For example, I have a graph here. I will email it all out later along with a long diatribe that I typed up earlier today. Basically, here is what was presented to you for the enrollment at Bolin Road and Pleasant Plains. There's a difference between the capacities for the next year and the year after. Then, if you listen to the audio during the working session, Ms. Mahaffey asked Susan Pullman about the PPE enrollment if it was to switch to a traditional calendar. And she came back with other numbers that, if you look to the 2027 calendar, the difference between the two schools disappears, even though the schools have the exact same capacity, 924 students, meaning that the traditional enrollment should also be similar. She did not give a number for that in any of the data she presented. So there's a huge issue there. And I would also argue that after you guys approved the plan, you also approved an amendment for Bolin Road. And that was to switch Bolin Road, which has a lower capacity than PPE, to a traditional calendar rather than being on a year-round calendar, meaning that PPE should also be allowed to be on a traditional calendar, especially since the neighborhood at large has been arguing for a traditional calendar. Furthermore, year-round calendar schools are becoming a decreasing trend across the country. Year-round schools also have poorer year-end performance when compared to traditional schools, and I'll send a link in my email to reference that. In conclusion, I don't think we should continue with year-round schools.
Thank you, Mr. English. All right. Our final speaker for tonight is Johnson Olive. Good evening, Mr. Olive.
Good evening, members of the board. First, I want to thank the current students for speaking out tonight. Keep it up. Be bold. Don't be silenced. You're very well heard. My name is Johnson Olive. I'm a Wake County resident and native, where I went to K through 12 school, graduating from Athens Drive. Go Jags. I'm also a Raleigh resident and homeowner. 2 months ago, my husband, Ryan Hosfeld, brought up a concerning problem, student lunch debt. And then we decided to start a GoFundMe because we figured that was the easiest way to start getting the word out. We feel very strongly about this issue that the most of the general public is unaware of. He was unable to attend tonight because he works in the emergency departments. He emailed everyone on the school board as well as the city council to get as much information and direction, but the responses were minimal, and that is why I'm here this evening. One city council member did respond to us, and she was unaware of this going on. I would like to thank, is it Haggerty?
Haggerty.
I'd like to thank you for your most receptive response, as well as, I think there was a Mr. Strickland?
Mr. Strickland is on staff and works on these issues too.
Another person who gave a very well receptive response. The third member, who I'm not naming, provided a brief show of appreciation followed by a very long, misinformed, and assumptive rant about my husband's children not attending public school and being in private school. To respond to that member, the children's mother teaches at the private school that they attend, and the logistics of transportation and childcare benefit them best at the school. Tuition is paid by us out of pocket with no vouchers. So to go back to what I was talking about, so far in 5 weeks, we have received 114 donations totaling $13,370. Over 80% of the donations have come from people who do not have children but pay taxes. We are continuing to receive donations. Our donors want to give more and would like direction on how to do so. I am here tonight to open a discussion on how to make the largest impact with these funds. With that said, I appreciate you taking the time to hear some of the questions that I have, because it's been a little unclear so far. We don't know what the current lunch debt amount is. With very limited information, we have heard donate to the Angel Fund, or have to go to schools individually and pay the entire amount on that specific day. So I know that I'm running out of time here. For every student to succeed, proper and consistent nutrition is critical. If a child can't pay for lunch, they are most likely facing insecurity at home. These students already have unnecessary struggles. Allowing this to be compounded.
Mr. Olive, that is your
Yeah,
time.
sorry.
That's quite all right, and you can always follow up with us online for additional comments.
What's the best way to do that?
Email, and then I think Chief Lisa Luton here is our Chief of Communications, and she can assist you too. All right, so that concludes our public comment period. At this point, we'll turn over to our board comments, starting with Superintendent Dr. Robert Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And first of all, I'd like to say good evening and Happy New Year to everyone. I can tell you that as superintendent, I'm certainly excited about what the 2025 school year will mean for us as the district, and I do hope that our community is excited as well about the potentials that we have for this school year. I just have a few brief announcements and updates for you tonight. First, January is National Mentoring Month, an annual campaign that highlights the importance of mentorship and celebrates all those who give their time and talents to support our young people. Research has confirmed that the mentor-mentee relationship has a positive impact on everyone involved. Mentees see improved academic, social, and economic prospects, while mentors build leadership, management skills, as they impart their wisdom and experience. In our school district, we are extremely fortunate to have thousands of parents and other caring community members who regularly volunteer to help our students grow. But there's always room for more. Everyone in education knows the truth of the old saying that it takes a village to raise a child. So we are always looking to increase our engagement with trusted community members. To those who are already serving as mentors, I thank you, and I ask that you continue to provide that support for our students. To those who are interested in sharing their knowledge and counsel with our students, I encourage you to contact your child's principal or visit wcpss.net/volunteer to learn how you can get involved. We certainly encourage and hope you work with us as mentors. Next, I'd like to congratulate this year's finalists for the Wake County School Library Media Coordinator of the Year. The finalists are Ashley Clark of Scotts Ridge Elementary, Kristen Ziller of Pine Hollow Middle, and Chris Howell of East Wake iTech and Design Magnet High School. All of our media coordinators play an important role in making sure the materials available are up to date, relevant, and support enhanced academic achievement. Each of these finalists has demonstrated exceptional dedication and innovation in managing the school library, promoting literacy, integrating technology into learning, and creating an engaging space for students to access important information and resources. The winner will be announced at the Celebration of Teaching Excellence on March 26. My congratulations and thanks to all of these finalists. In closing, I'd like to extend an invitation to our 2025 State of the Schools event, which will be held on Monday, February 26th at 6 p.m. at Southeast Raleigh Magnet High School. This will be an opportunity for our community to gather and learn more about our many successes, as well as how we intend to build on those. We do indeed have much to celebrate, even as we acknowledge the ongoing work that will be necessary to reach the goals set forth in our strategic plan. I can tell you as superintendent, I'm always open to hearing responses about the work that we need to do to improve. We know that as a public school, there are resources that we need to continue to do this work, but we are certainly proud as the district in terms of where we are with student achievement. One of the goals that I will do is to certainly make sure we work with our community to know and understand the difference between proficiency, growth, and how all of those things go into identifying when students are career and college ready, and how that parlays into what we call a graduation rate. I encourage people to understand that a graduation rate is about the minimum preparation that a student has, and they have met those requirements, but we have so many more students that exceed what are the minimum requirements. And so it's certainly our responsibility as a community to know and understand what that means, and our task as administration is to make sure we make that known. So our hope is that, my hope is that you attend our State of the Schools address, where I will talk about the successes that we have as a district, as well as the growth and support that we need as a community. And so with that, Mr. Chair, I will turn it back to you.
Thank you, Superintendent Taylor. I want to thank everyone on the board for coming out and giving your full participation for our board retreat. I thought we had many wonderful ideas, some great discussion, and got to dive into some issues a little more deeply than we usually do and explore some topics and get some good discussion around them. Dr. Taylor, Vice Chair Swanson, and I are working on several items as follow-ups based on your input, and we'll be bringing some of those to you at the work session at our next meeting. So again, thank everybody for coming in and really participating and really making the most out of the event. I also want to share, I guess, that we had the memorial service for a friend of mine this past weekend. I've mentioned her before, Weta Watson, who's come out to speak to us. And just I've received, I don't want to dwell unnecessarily on one person's passing when we have so many people who contribute so much to our community. But I do want to just share that even today I was receiving emails from people who were motivated to come out to the meetings based on Weta's urgings. You know, they may not speak, they may not stand up, but they wanted to be here and they wanted to be present. And, you know, either show support for what they believed in or, you know, show their opposition to things that they didn't agree with. And that really is the impact that one person can have. And you know, through her memorial and planning it out, she encouraged all of us to act justly, to show mercy, and to walk humbly according to our faith. And I think that's good advice for all of us, whether we're on the board or just general citizens. So, you know, I will miss Weta, but I just wanted to share that just even in her passing, she's still motivating people, you know, even if they agreed with her and if they didn't agree with her, she still gave them cookies that she hand-baked and brought to these meetings, and we will miss her. I'm going to do something a little bit different, and I do want to address a couple things that were raised tonight at some meetings, in some of the comments at the meetings. I do know that Chief Luton is working with Mr. Olive, and I know that school lunch debt is something that many on the board have raised as a priority, and you know, we've worked to address this with our Angel Fund, but lunch debt is different than, you know, having the funds available. And I want everyone to know who may or may not be involved, and Mr. Olive is still here. I've been working also with our Chief of Staff, Dr. Clinton Robinson, and we're trying to find a way to make this work. It's not really a yes or no, but how do we? Because working specifically with GoFundMe, there are certain legal obstacles, and there are certain things about student records in terms of the privacy each student has about their debt to be able to share certain things. We obviously know that many families would want to accept this help, but we just have to go through the procedure of how to do it. But please know that your gesture is certainly welcomed and I think embraced by everyone up here. I know he has left, but Dr. English, who's raised the questions about reassignment, you know, I want to be clear for anyone who has questions about this, that the concerns raised by Dr. English that he shared with us again today, again, very civilly and here in this public comment period as per his right, were concerns that we brought to staff, to Ms. Pulliam and Mr. Carrozza, and who explained why, according to their data, Mr. English had reached the wrong conclusions and misinterpreted the numbers that they had presented. You know, we don't want anyone to feel that they're not being listened to, but at the same time, when there are honest disagreements, we have to stand by our data and the decision that we made. And so I would like to invite him, if he's willing to sit down for a discussion with the staff, to be able to, and any board member who is interested, if we have more than 5 of us, it's a quorum, so it'd have to be a public meeting, but anyone who is interested, to review the data and just make sure that everyone understands it. And if there are still concerns that exist, we can address those as a board. But I think, as you've seen in all of the documents that were shared with us during the reassignment plan, and I hope that guided your votes, a lot of these concerns were looked at, researched, and Ms. Pulliam and Mr. Carrozza shared their opinion that everything was valid moving forward. And I'm happy to have a meeting where he can sit down, address those concerns with staff and with any of you to hear how those were resolved. And if you still think there's an issue, we can bring that up at a future meeting. But this is something we have taken very seriously. The question raised about the audit, I have to, I really respect everyone's opinion and the First Amendment rights to come up here and speak their truth and speak their concerns and their opinions. But there's just some basic information that we've repeated over and over and over again. If you ask when the last time Wake County received an audit, all of you on the board were present when all of the data was presented. It was October 26, 2023. And before that, October of 2022. And before that, October of 2021. And before that, October of 2020. And before that, October of 2019. Before that, I wasn't on this board. But I will tell you that every year we have a full professional independent audit done of this district's spending and its financial accounting. Not only that, we go above and beyond, and we have an independent audit committee made up of members of the community that are brought in with financial expertise to ensure that there's no thumbs on the scale, that everything is being done and conducted the way that it should be. And beyond that, the board, I know, is aware, but the public might not be. This district continues year after year to receive national recognition for its transparency and its professionalism in accounting. So you can disagree with how funds are spent, you can disagree with policies and programs, but if you're going to state that our books are unaudited, that is verifiably false. If you're going to accuse the district of mismanagement, that is verifiably false. And again, people that do this professionally around the country provide us commendations and accolades for the job that we do. So when you imply that there's something nefarious, there's mismanagement or fraud, I'm going to take issue with that, and I'm going to call you on that. I am fine if you disagree with how funds are spent, but they are being spent legally, accurately, and according to the law. Finally, the questions about proficiency. This is a conversation that I think we need to have, and you heard Dr. Taylor talk about it, because how we judge student success and how we judge proficiency is measured by many different measuring sticks. But it's important to realize what these sticks are and what they mean for actual student readiness, college and career preparedness. We look for measurements, we look for standardized tests so that we have some accountability, and what we'll say is like a standard of measurement. But these tests are one test given on one particular day in a student's academic career. They do not accurately measure everything that we do in our classrooms day after day to prepare our students for college. And it is a reasonable question to ask. Why can these test scores show numbers that you might find unacceptable regarding proficiency, and then yet you turn around and you see high graduation rates? But it's important to look beyond that, that not only do we have high graduation rates, we have high levels of acceptance in the finest colleges and universities around the country. The Wake County Public School students are not just getting accepted and admitting to our military academies, to our universities, state and private, out-of-state institutions recruit Wake County heavily for their students, but then what those students go on to do successfully. And these are difficult metrics to track, but this is something that the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction has been working on to track students post-graduation from high school, to see what they are doing in terms of, do they go to college, do they go to the military, do they go into work, and then do they have success in those fields? And again, they're only beginning to capture and collect that data, but so far, Wake County students are at the top of that list. So I'm not, as Dr. Taylor has said, we can do better, we must do better, we have an obligation to every student, that every student should do better, and every student should have that success. But let's have the conversation, and let's have a whole conversation about all the factors that measure student success. And while individual test scores do need to rise, remember, again, that is one factor of many factors that determine student success. And we can be judged on those test scores, but we should be judged on more than just those test scores. And so with that, I will conclude my comments, and I will turn it over to Vice Chair Swanson.
Thank you so much, Chair Hegarty, and Happy New Year to everyone, and I hope everyone had a very well-rested winter break, whether you celebrate Christmas, Hanukkah, or Kwanzaa. Hopefully you and your family had a safe and restful break. Thank you, Chair Hegarty, for laying all that out, and I also want to thank you for bringing back the Budget Committee, because it seems as if we need to have a little bit of one-on-ones, and you kicked the year off with not only a financial one-on-one, but some academic one-on-one as well, so thank you. And I also, my remarks are going to be very brief, I also want to thank Ms. Honeycutt for joining District 9's BAC meeting last month, and the Apex High School community for hosting us. As we talked about our very robust CTE program that is also very award-winning and has very high rates of completion. So we are doing great things, and I look forward to those great things that will continue and the year ahead of us of the great work that we will do. And I would be remiss if I didn't say that January is also National School Board Members Appreciation Month. And so to the 115 school districts in North Carolina and across the state and country, I think they're all feeling the same thing that we're feeling. And I often joke in saying that we're a part of a B613. For those who don't reference Scandal, I'm still a big Scandal fan. But the work that we do daily does impact communities and the work and whatnot. So I also want to thank the students who have shown up time after time to advocate for this great change. And as the community member had said before, your voice is important. You all are the future, the generation of now and tomorrow. And do not ever allow anyone to try to silence your voice, take your place. You all's voices are very important, and I look forward to the great things, not only that you all are going to do, but students across, when you all step into your power and no longer accept things as it is. And so thank you for advocating for yourselves and for the students who may not know that you all are advocating for them. Thank you so much. And to Mr. Olive, I also want to thank you for taking on this initiative as well, for advocating for students who may not have the needs or the funds. And so I want to thank you for standing in that gap and seeing an issue and trying to get into some good trouble to make sure that our students have what they need to be successful, not just academically, but as an entire person as well. So thank you. And that concludes my remarks. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Vice Chair Swanson. Those who have attended the meetings might have known a little bit of musical chairs. We have reordered the order of the table with our former Vice Chair, Monica Johnson-Hostler's vacancy. So we will have a new member in District 2 joining us who will be seated next to Mr. Hershey. But in celebration of our new alignment, we'll go to Ms. Mahaffey, who now sits on this side of the table.
All right. Thank you, Chair Hegarty, and thank you for the reminder that I am excited to be the new chair of the Student Achievement Committee, and so follow in Vice Chair Swanson's footsteps, but he won't be far. He's going to be the vice chair of the committee. So And that is where you can see a lot of conversations about academic performance in Wake County Public Schools, both our glows and grows, as they call them. Happy New Year. I want to, to our students that are here speaking out, thank you for sharing your voices. Thank you for being here on a school night. We have already approved this on first reading, so tonight is the formal second reading. So you won't hear a specific vote for this policy. It will be a part of our consent agenda. So because I don't want to say but if the consent agenda is passed, that means the policy that you're advocating for has passed, been approved, and is now a part of the Wake County Public School System's policy. So if you're looking for it, that's when you're going to hear it. It's not going to call out the policy specifically, but thank you for coming and lending your voice. And I just don't want you to feel like, oh my gosh, I missed everything, because you didn't. It's there. It's just tucked in the consent item. So when you hear that vote, will include your policy. So, and that's all.
Thank you, Ms. Mahaffey. Ms. Caulfield.
Thank you. I hope you all had a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and are having a good start to the new year. May we all find many blessings in 2025. It is time for reflecting and new beginnings, and right before the break, the board we met for a 2-day retreat where we discussed some of the focuses that we want to have going forward for this new year. I was happy that some of our school board members here joined me in a collaborative effort along with the surrounding counties to implore our legislators specifically for higher teacher pay. I know there are several things that we would like to advocate for on behalf of our classrooms. This is a joint ask letter that asks for our teachers to be bumped to a new starting salary of $50,000 and all teachers to receive the same increase in pay proportionally. Wake County is the 15th largest in the nation, but we are at 38 in teacher pay. Sorry. It is valued, they are valued and a very important role not only for our children, but teachers shape education and how our community will look. They deserve to be closer to the national average here in North Carolina, one of the largest school districts. While this is only one way that we could show our teachers support, I hope our legislators will hear our plea and support our teachers and students at the classroom level with the supports that are needed, especially with our growing community needs and the variety of needs from our children and our teachers. I'll still work on advocating for our other needs that for our teachers and our students, but this would be a great start. I hope that everybody that 2025 proves to be a very productive year. That's all I have.
Thank you, Ms. Caulfield. Ms. Rice.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Tonight, I want to say Happy New Year. And tonight I have only 3 comments, so I'm going to be quick, okay? All right, District 4, next BAC meeting will be on Monday, February 3rd at Hunter Magnet Elementary School with the topic of balancing technology and focus, rethinking cell phone policies in schools. I'm also excited to be the new chair of the Community Engagement Committee, following the footsteps of the former Vice Chair, Ms. Johnson Hostler. I really enjoyed her swearing-in ceremony on Friday and being a part of Team Hostler. And then for our 8 Dimensions of Wellness tip today, we're going to focus on physical wellness because I've been going through quite a bit of physical wellness and recovery over the holiday season. So these tips will focus on our winter months. I want to encourage you to do activities to promote movement, such as stretching, yoga, or dance in indoor spaces. For students and staff, brief movement breaks during the day can boost circulation and energy. Community members can organize group fitness classes at local community centers for engaging in virtual workouts to stay active even when it's cold outside. The second tip is hydration and nourishment. Winter often reduces the sensation of thirst, but staying hydrated is essential. Drink water. Herbal teas and warm broths. I've been doing a whole lot of that lately. Balance this with nutrition-rich meals, including seasonal vegetables like sweet potatoes, carrots, kale, and I have to add in collard greens. All right? And school and community centers can offer winter nutrition workshops or healthy meal initiatives to promote these habits so that you can have what? A positive and productive day. Thanks, everyone.
Between you and my wife trying to get me to eat those collards. They're good luck for New Year's, though.
That's right. Kale is not the only thing out there. There are collard greens and mustard greens for those of us who are cultural who offer the same nutritional values.
That's right. Thank you, Ms. Rice. We'll come back around. Ms. Edmonds, are you ready? Thank you.
Thank you. I actually didn't have any prepared comments, but I wanted to piggyback on your comments, Chair Haggerty. First of all, thank you so much for addressing those issues. I think 2025 needs to be a year about telling the truth and putting accurate information out. So I really appreciate what you said. I wanted to add that we just had the 2024 audit presented to us on November 26th by the audit committee. Mr. Coble was here and Ms. Bynum Patterson was here at our work session on November 26th. And the last thing that I will add is that all of those are public record. That's a little bit of information that I'd like to add to your comments. Anyone in the public can access those audits and read them in full, and they're available on our website. And if people need help finding them, I'm sure our staff is more than happy to help you. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Edmonds. Dr. Ring.
Hi, good evening, Happy New Year, and I hope that everybody had a restful holiday and that you're refreshed and ready to tackle the challenges of the new year. Before the winter break, I had the honor of being a judge at Northway College and Career Academy for their government and AP Government and Political Science class, and thank you for the teacher, Ms. Stacy Arch, and Principal Hutchinson for inviting me. And I was able to listen in on the students' ideas for their political action plan presentation. It was, I can tell that they did a lot of research and they knew a lot about their topic, and they were ready with a lot of answers anytime I asked them questions. But I didn't give them too much of a hard time. And, you know, I was really impressed with their depth of their knowledge, and I was able to give them some insight into kind of real-life politics, especially at the state and local level. And I was also able to tell them a little bit about the real-world medical healthcare scene, and because one of the presentations was about healthcare and advocacy to the Center for Medicare and Medicaid. I you know, it was kind of touched on a lot of things that I'm have some opinions on. So, and then just today we had our discussion at the work session in regarding cell phones, and last work session before the break we also had touched upon some issues with regard to artificial intelligence. And, you know, we're starting the conversation now, but really the conversation should be done in the home, you know, with your families and with the community. We really need to all be looking at how we use our technology, and, you know, do we have command over the technology and harnessing its vast potential? Or are we going to be controlled by it or molded by it? And for sure, you know, children are kind of at the crosshair. I've been reading this book by Jonathan Haidt, The Anxious Generation. And the opening chapter, the author asked the question to the parents, you know, would you allow your children to travel to Mars, knowing that the effects of lower gravity and exposure to cosmic radiation would most likely have permanent effects on them? And what if your children were going to Mars without your knowledge or permission, or not really understanding the full effects of the trip into outer space? And so basically his point is, if
if we're going to be using this technology for good, we also need to understand how it may have impact on our children in the rewiring of our minds, in the rewiring of our childhood. And, his jump in his conclusion was that there is also some concern about it causing an epidemic of mental illness. So I'm still in the middle of reading it. I'm going to continue on reading it. And I would invite everyone listening to do your own research, do your readings, look at the topic, and decide for yourself where you stand. The board, of course, will be considering the policies in the upcoming months. But really, I urge parents to take charge of the issue because it will impact your children far beyond the boundaries of the school. So, we can only control what happens in the school. But you, as parents, have control over what happens at home and what happens with your children's access to and use of cell phones and other technologies. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ng. And we will conclude with Mr. Hershey.
I'll be super brief. As we talk about the cell phone policy, I want to encourage people watching this to send us your thoughts and opinions on what we should do regarding that policy. You don't have to wait for a survey. You can email all of us anytime. And after that, I am not going to stand in the way of what these students came here for. I just want to say that when people try to define students as a grade or a test, they are so off base, and it's clear that they do not interact with Wake County Public School students. We get the privilege to do it when we are invited to, I know, students at Millbrook High School and Dr. Ing's district, they emailed both of us because I'm right there on the border, and I was a part of a couple of projects and interviews, and these are incredibly thoughtful people, and not once did I think, I wonder what their grade point average is, or I wonder what they scored on a test. And we have to stop defining students as a piece of data. They are thoughtful, amazing human beings who are so much more than that. And I will leave it at that, and I am going to be proud to support what you all came here to speak about. And well done with all of your speeches.
And with that, we conclude our board and superintendent comment phase. Thank you. So the next item on our agenda is consideration of our consent agenda.
Motion
referenced
to approve.
by Ms. Mahaffey.
Second.
And now, moved for adoption by Ms. Mahaffey. I heard a second from Vice Chair Swanson. Is there any discussion or any debate? If not, I'll take a vote on adoption of the items on the consent agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, all of the items on the consent agenda have been adopted. Congratulations. All right. So now we'll proceed to our action agenda. We have a couple items on here tonight, the first of which, again, goes to our employees in the Chief of Schools area. First, we'll talk about long-range capping recommendations, and then the Magnet School Assistant Grant. So I see Ms. Rory here. We have you or Mr. Carrozza presenting.
Good evening.
Thank you.
You for allowing us some time to bring forward the long-range capping recommendations for the 2024-25 school year. Staff presented the 2024-25 capping recommendations to the Board of Education at the December 3rd, 2024 work session. The capping recommendations would be for the remainder of this school year and into the 25-26 school year. Staff recommends that we maintain all current school caps. Staff also recommends that we change the overflow school for Beaver Dam Elementary from Knightdale Elementary to Forestville Elementary. Staff's recommendations are based on several factors that include principal feedback, a review of the base student population, percentages, projected growth, and school capacities. Staff will continue to carefully monitor the impact on overflow schools. And this evening, we are asking for an approval vote of those recommendations, and we are scheduled to meet with all current capped and overflow school principals, data managers, et cetera, tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Roy. And so, board members, you do have in Assembly a presentation that accompanied that. So if you review the presentation, you will see it aligns perfectly with Ms. Roy's comments. But for any questions, you can see again the definitions of capped schools, overflow schools, crowding management, what the enrollment cap considerations are, and specifically that list of capped schools. So this is one of those documents that you might want to save for future reference,
Yes.
as it's something you can come back to and refer to throughout the year. All right.
Chair Hagerty, I make a motion that we adopt the capping recommendations presented by Ms. Rory.
We have a motion from Ms. Mahaffey and a second from Vice Chair Swanson to adopt the 2024-2025 capping recommendations. Are there any questions for Ms. Rory or any discussion? Again, this is, I'll just say, one of the tools that we use to try to manage growth in the county. And for some people, capping is very unpopular. And for other people, they would like to see more capping, because when we have schools that are over capacity and we can't put more students in those schools, we either have to cap them and send the new arriving residents further away, and they wonder why they can't go to the school closest to them, or when we reassign, you have families that might have lived there a long, long time that wonder why they have to go to a new school. So, I know there's not necessarily love of capping, but it is one of the tools that we have that makes all of this possible as we continue to try to build new schools and manage our district's growth. So with no other questions or no comments, we'll move to an immediate vote. All in favor of the 2024-25 capping recommendations, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you, Ms. Rory.
Thank you all.
So then, next we will turn, is Dr. Lane here? If Dr. Lane is not here, will Mr. Carrozza, because he knows he would be the one to present if she is not found. Go ahead, Ms. Evans.
Mr. Chair, are we out of order if we move to the District 2 vacancy update while we wait for Dr. Lane, or?
We would technically have to move items on the agenda. I believe Mr. Carrozza is ready and available to present, and it's just a race between whether he gets up to the podium or I can get the hold music on my phone ready to play.
Well, I apologize, I don't have a copy of the Preces in front of me.
It's quite all right. This is the item, Magnet School Assistance Grant, Elevate Project Evaluation Contract. Staff is requesting contract approval for the Metis Associates. The contract provides for Metis Associates an outside grant evaluator to visit the 5 MSAP Elevate schools: Wendell Magnet Elementary, Wendell Magnet Middle, Zebulon Magnet Elementary, Zebulon Magnet Middle, and East Wake Magnet High to determine baseline data for the 5-year MA or MSAP evaluation required by the U.S. Department of Education while it lasts. The contract provides evaluation data to ensure that WCPSS is utilizing funds and working to meet performance measures as outlined in the 2023 MSAP application approved and funded by ED, and ED again is U.S. Department of Education. Funding is included in the MSAP Elevate Federal Grant Budget, PRC 398, for the period of October 23 to September of 2028, a 5-year grant. Fiscal implications: the contract amount is up to $430,000 over 5 years of the grant. Years 1 and 3 equal $70,000 per year. Years 4 and 5 equal $110,000 annually. So, Mr. Carrozza, with that background information, is there anything to present, or could you explain the item before the board?
So this is a group that works to help implement the grant. And so there's a lot of work behind the scenes that goes to keeping up with the grant to make sure that we're in compliance. And so we hire an additional company to support us in that process.
Thank you.
Glenn, could you also share if that is a requirement of the grant that it be evaluated?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
So in order to receive the grant funds, this is a compliance requirement?
Yes.
All right. With that, Ms. Rice.
So it's also to be said, we're continuing to be transparent and authentic around making sure we're following guidelines around budgeting, right?
That is an astute observation, Ms. Rice.
Chair Hagerty, I make a motion we approve the MSAP Elevate Project Evaluation Contract.
We have a motion from Ms. Mahaffey for approval of the contract and the amount requested. We have a second from Vice Chair Swanson. All in favor of approval of the contract amount, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? All right. Approval for the contract has been granted.
Thank you so much for your flexibility, too.
All right, thank you. So now we turn to the last item on our action agenda, the District 2 board member vacancy. All right, and so I will need a minute to pull everything up, but let me ask, have all board members been able to check email and receive the updated information from Ms. Melissa Allen? Okay. So then, for everyone's benefit, you know that we put forward a timeline for how we would, and requirements for how we would fill the District 2 vacancy. The deadline for applications was yesterday, and we have 8 total candidates that appear to live within District 2, although one did not submit all the information set forth in the announcement. One was missing letters of recommendation. So the the applicants for the District 2 vacancy, and I apologize if I mispronounce any of these names, are Alexandra Alcantara, Caroletta Daniels, Christina Gordon, Delon Fletcher, Dr. Brady Coker, Kara Gensor, Thaddeus Sherman, and Josh McGee, although Mr. McGee was missing the letters of recommendation that were requested. So at this point, if you look in Assembly, you should see the timeline that we had previously approved for going forward with the vacancy. For the benefit of people in the audience or people at home, our job today is to confirm an interview schedule for these 7 or 8 candidates. Currently, our plan was to conduct interviews on Tuesday, January 14th. And so then one item to consider is whether or not you feel that we have enough time to complete all the interviews on that date, and if not, if we would add an interview date, and if so, when we would do that. So if an alternative date is needed, or if we need to set an alternative date for any possible weather-related issues, we can do that tonight. And then finally, we're scheduled for a swearing-in ceremony for the candidates selected either on January 14th or after the conclusion of any additional interviews. That would be Tuesday, February 4th. Ms. Mahaffey.
Thank you, Chair Hagerty. I believe as we were discussing this in December, we talked about candidates that didn't submit a full profile. And so I would submit that since we have 8 candidates, 7 with a full profile, that we interview the 7 folks that had fully submitted their application. And that is 5 hours and 15 minutes of interviewing if we stick to the 45-minute interview schedule for those 7 candidates.
And that would be similar to some past interviews we've done. Can I take that suggestion as a motion?
You may.
Is there a second for Ms. Mahaffey's motion?
Second.
I have a second from Ms. Edmonds. Is there any discussion that we would go forward with the 7 candidates who submitted all of the required information and go forward on that interview schedule that would all be on the 14th?
That would be my suggestion, but I understand that people have different calendars, and 5 hours and 15 minutes plus time for setting the meeting
Okay.
is
Then
a
let's
long
take-
meeting and lunch.
Then let's
So
just
maybe we
take the
just wanna
first motion
discuss
on
it.
the 7.
Yep.
Okay, so we'll do that first. Ms. Edmonds?
Just wanted to support Ms. Mahaffey's point about the 7 candidates. I think we were very clear on the expectation of what was to be submitted, so I'm supporting the interview of 7.
Okay. Any further comments?
Yeah, I had the same thing. I had to do a sidebar question to ask the very same thing. Considering being the last person on the board who just went through that process, I think it's important to have everything that's asked in the packet.
And I think there's something special about the people who had to go through that process. I'm just saying. All right, thank you. All right, so if there's no further discussion, we'll take a vote on Ms. Mahaffey's motion to interview the 7 applicants that provided all of the required information. All in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so we have the list of 7 candidates, and so then the next question would be to set an interview schedule. Again, we have, Ms. Mahaffey had calculated the amount of time it would take if we proceeded as we have in the past, that no break time or lunch in between. Okay.
6 hours, 6.5.
Okay, Vice Chair Swanson?
So, Mr. Chair, I would propose that we go through with just one day. I think if we went multiple days, it would convolute the process, and we may not be able to give that applicant a fair, it may not be fair to that person to try to remember various candidates. So I'm going to recommend that we start, if that's a 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock start. I think it was similar to the past, if I'm not mistaken, with District 4, we started around 11-ish. I'm looking at Miss Allen, and she's around 11-ish, and I think we were scheduled to go to 6 that evening. So that would be my recommendation. I can put that in a motion if needed.
Ms. Evans, then Dr. Green?
Thank you. I agree with the one day on January 14th. However, I do think it would be wise for us to choose an alternate date for weather.
I think that's wise. Okay. How about, I'll just make a suggestion that we go ahead and try to decide the meeting date first, and then the times, and then we can look ahead to the calendars. And those of you who don't care about the meeting dates, you can go ahead and check calendars for alternative dates right now, just in case there is a weather issue. Ms. Caulfield, Dr. Ng, and then Ms. Caulfield.
Just wanted to remind everyone that East Millbrook Middle School has a 50th anniversary that night at 6:30. So I'm planning to attend, so just want to make sure that,
In setting the time that we have, not only time for the interviews, but then time for deliberation and vote.
Right.
In order to get you there.
Right.
I think that's a reasonable request. Ms. Caulfield?
That's what I was going to raise, the same thing, so that's it.
All right, 2 reasonable requests. All right, then. I was trying to look back. It might take a minute.
Chair Hagerty, I don't think we've ever had 7 applicants.
Yeah.
Correct. We've had 6, but not 7, so.
Let's see, looking back. It looks like that meeting was on February 13th of 2024, and we did start at 12 o'clock. So also thinking in, the availability to get lunch and then to get through the whole process, what is your thinking, Vice Chair Swanson?
So, to honor Dr. Ng's request, I wonder would a 10 o'clock start be doable?
Or even 9?
Well, yeah, either, I'll propose 9 or 10, whichever.
Yeah, let's keep it right now just an open discussion, and then we'll have the motion. We sort of see where people. Yeah, I think that's very reasonable. Ms. Rice.
I do recall that one of the candidates last time did not attend, which made the meeting shorter. So take that in consideration if it seemed like it went a little faster. And then is it possible that there may not be, and this without breaks, I think you're saying, Ms. McAfee?
Oh, no, with like a break,
With a break, but maybe not have
But
the
like-
break as long.
a lunch break, because if it's a 6.5-hour meeting, we'll need to eat.
The state law
Ms.
gives us
Allen
30
will need to
minutes.
eat. Yeah, I'm not saying we need a European lunch, Ms. Rice.
I like the 2-hour life.
All right.
But yeah, those are the only considerations that maybe we not take. I'm going to readjust my schedule to make this happen, but those are my suggestions.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is either a 9 or a 10 o'clock start. Ms. Mahaffey?
I'm an early bird.
I would wonder if we want to leave it flexible until you and Vice Chair Swanson speak with Ms. Allen, who will have to set up this arrangement and see how much time she needs in the morning. But I think if the board is amenable for that flexibility.
She,
Yeah. Oh.
yes,
I love you, Ms. Allen.
yes.
Oh.
Sorry, I
Okay.
wasn't trying to like look
No,
over
you're
your
good.
shoulder, but I was.
No, I figured I knew what you were doing, but, so I think because we have 7 candidates, and, they all have a varying degree of excellent qualifications, I would propose the 9 o'clock, because that way we don't have to worry about Dr. Ng sweating at like 5:30. Or maybe, I don't know, it might take that long, but we'll
Well-
try to give you a buffer.
Well, yeah, it's the 9 o'clock, and just to teach it like a workday, 9 to 5, we're done. I mean, but a shorter 30-minute break. If you think about it, if we start at 9, it's a regular business day.
Vice Chair Swanson, and then anyone over here?
I just wanted to follow up that that would not include deliberation and the vote. So I just want to make sure we had enough time to give each candidate the time and the discussion that they deserve.
8 o'clock?
Well, I tried to, so the 5-hour, 15 minutes is everybody gets 45 minutes. I tried to bump in the half hour for lunch and then an additional hour for
So,
maybe optimistic deliberations, but who knows?
Am I calculating that wrong?
so I do have another suggestion that could impact that, depending on what you all think. In the past, and using the time frame that Ms. Mahaffey has used, that was, if you remember the District 4 vacancy, we asked each applicant 10 questions. There's 8 of us. If we reduce that to 8 questions, then everyone asks a question, and maybe we cut off a little bit of time, and therefore could shorten the process. And that's right, not everyone uses that.
That's what I was going to remind you, is it seemed to me that you were really only using about 30 minutes, and then we were sitting around for 15 of the 45 minutes, and then the other 15 minutes in between. So I think you can shorten the interview time and cut a lot of time out of the day. It's just
So
my memory, anyway.
So what do you all think about that? If we reduce it to 8 questions, understand that we will have time, we won't necessarily have to build in breaks. If everyone's not using that 45 minutes, we have a built-in break, but maybe it doesn't have to be as long. We might be able to compress it a little better. Starting at 9, and then we'll work with Ms. Allen to schedule candidates accordingly with the goal of getting out of here by 5 p.m.
Yeah, and Ms. Caulfield said we would be out potentially by like 3:30, so.
Which I do not have a problem with. All right, so if that sounds acceptable to everybody, we'll put that in the form of a motion, that we will have our special called meeting of the Wake County Board of Education, beginning at 9 a.m. on Tuesday, January 14th, for the purpose of interviewing applicants and selecting a replacement for the District 2 board member.
So moved.
We have a motion for Mr. Swanson, second for Ms. Mahaffey. All in favor of that schedule, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. Now, the tricky part, looking for an alternative date, say there is an issue with weather or something like that. It's a little bit tricky because normally we would have had committee meetings that day. We've moved committee meetings to Wednesday. And then I don't know about the rest of you and your schedules the rest of that week, the 15th and the 16th. if, technically, we do have the following week after that, we have a board meeting on the 21st that will have a full and active agenda, but we have other days that week as well. I will tell you that I will be traveling for work on the 16th and 17th, and I won't be available. But, I know that while we'd like to have everybody, it may or may not be possible. So what are your thoughts looking at your own availability for alternative dates? Mr. Hershey?
Can we cross this bridge if we need to next week? Because I'm looking at the weather. The weather looks fine, the 7-8 day forecast. We could spend 35 minutes here trying to figure out another day, and we may not need it at all.
I do hear you, but I did want to give people enough notice, right? So it's not next week, and then we're trying to find a date that might have been free today, but between now and then, we scheduled it. Tell you what, I hear your point. Will you humor me with just giving us 5 minutes? All right. So with just 5 minutes looking along, can we just go through board member by board member, and just if you can identify any conflicts or availability between now and February the 4th? It'll give us an idea. And I think Ms. Allen might be providing some additional information as well concerning committee meetings and other scheduled meetings. I'll read what's been shared right now. We have a special called meeting scheduled for the 14th. On the 15th, we have an executive meeting at 11:30, community engagement at 1 p.m., and facilities at 3 p.m. On the 16th, we have several schools with mid-year graduations. We also have potential afternoon due process hearings. Nothing currently scheduled on the 17th. The 20th, as you know, is a holiday. On the 21st, we've scheduled our student achievement meeting. We have the board work session, board meeting, and mid-year graduations for some schools. Mid-year graduations on the 22nd and 23rd. Again, most of those are going to be, I think, evening hours. Some may schedule some during the day. We have a morning due process hearing on the 23rd, but then nothing scheduled on the 24th. So potentially, it looks like, unless there's a mid-year graduation conflict, Wednesday the 22nd, or, again, I'll be out of town, but Thursday the 16th may be the best days, according to the school calendar, but I don't know about your individual work or family calendars. Anyone have any dates that are out?
I
Ms.
have
Russ?
a lot of dates that are out, but I can share what's available.
Okay.
Which puts us, for me, a Wednesday, the 22nd still as well.
Okay. Ms. Caulfield, do you have any?
So you cannot do the 16th?
I can figure out something to make it work unless,
you're
he's not
not- you're
available
not-
the
okay.
16th and 17th.
I can do the 22nd as well.
Okay. Ms. Mahaffey, what about you?
I haven't filled in.
It's going to involve some phone calls, but I can make the 22nd work, as
Okay.
well as the 24th.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Mr. Swanson?
The 22nd and 24th, preferably the 24th, would be better.
Okay. You can do the 24th as well? Okay. What about you, Ms. Caulfield?
I may not be here.
Okay, okay.
Just excuse me from my students at Wilburn Elementary for reading to you that morning. I do apologize.
Well, what you can do is you can find whoever's selected for District 2 and then bring them with you for the makeup. Twice as much reading. Mr. Hershey, you said you were good both days, 22nd? Thank you, I appreciate that dedication. Dr. Ng?
Friday is better.
Friday's better? Okay. And Ms. Edmonds?
I can do the 22nd and the 24th, but I'm wondering, is the 13th, Monday the 13th, is that not an option?
The day before?
I don't have a preference, I'm just asking the question.
Yeah. It's available. I think the thought was that we would only use the alternate date if we knew the 14th would not be available. I know with some of the weather that's expected, they've been talking about it Friday and Saturday with more clear weather later, so any residual might be a little worse on the 13th, but it is an open date. Okay. All right, so what we'll do is, based on this, it sounds like either the 22nd or the 24th, some of us have conflicts on one day, some of us conflicts on the other, might be the day for the potential alternate day. So let's just state today in the public meeting that if we cannot interview everybody on Tuesday, the 14th, on the 14th, we will select one of those 2 days based on everyone's input for the 22nd, 24th. That way, we give everybody notice, and we ask that you hold that availability if it is available, but we won't select it until we know we actually need it. Sound like a plan? All right, great. Yes, any questions? Oh, the candidate questions. And so I'd asked at the last meeting for folks to go back, if you had access to look at the questions we had asked. I know we threw a new wrinkle into that tonight by talking about reducing it from 10 to 8. Mr. Swanson, did you have specific?
So I went back and reviewed, had access, I think we still all have access from the
Old Google Doc?
Yes, which I think I put those comments in February of 2024.
Yes.
So I just wanted to stand by those recommendations or suggestions for questions if folks had opportunity to look at them and give input.
I appreciate that. Ms. Mahaffey?
Chair Hegarty, I trust you and Vice Chair Swanson can condense those 10 questions into 8, and I'm okay with those
Okay.
changes because I think the spirit of the questions will continue.
And if everyone is happy with that, then what we can do is Vice Chair Swanson and I will work with Dr. Taylor to approve a final question list this Friday, and we'll get that out to everyone so that you'll have that in advance. Okay? All right. Are there any other questions related to the District 2 vacancy? And then just the last thing I'll remind you, as we've talked about before, we want to ensure that this is an open but a fair process. So I would encourage all of you to refrain from discussing the vacancy with any of the candidates that have been named. If anyone has a question about it, about meeting dates, procedure, questions, please refer them to Ms. Allen, who should be in a position to answer any question that they might have. If someone has questions about the job or duties of a board member, what I've done is I've just simply explained that I can't talk to any applicants, but I've provided information for some of our former board members so that they could talk to them about their experience. Of course, you do, what you think best fills your conscience, but that's really been the expectation, is that to make sure that nobody has access to additional information, that none of us talk to any of the applicants that are officially being considered except through the interview process. Okay? All right. All right, so are there any final questions or thoughts? I think that covers everything. All right, if there are no other questions about the District 2 vacancy process, what I'd like to do is entertain a motion for us to return to closed session.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
All right, we have a motion from Vice Chair Swanson and a second from Mr. Hershey. All in favor of returning to closed session, say aye. Any opposed? Of course not. It passes. We will now move back into closed session. Thank you all. Good night.